So we continue with the last talk for the evening. It's going to be by Ludger Hovestadt. I think a great way to finish this conference. The title is Artificial Intelligence, Cogito and Architectonics. Ludger is one of the co-organizers of this conference. He is professor of computer or CAD, or I think now newly renamed chair of digital architectonics, right? At the ETH Zurich. And since 2008, his focus shifted from applications to the principles of computing and architecture. And after some projects together with Vera in the Laboratory of Applied Virtuality, the book series came to take place. And I think, as I think already was mentioned before, the new book is at the brochure together, the new book in the series, Ghost of Transparency. With no more introduction on my side, please welcome Ludger to the stage.
Okay. Thank you. I want to, you know me, architect. I'm not doing theory. So I present you a text, but it's not a theory, it's a machine. It's a mechanics I want to present you, and the constitution of wheels around concepts or words. And they amazingly switch and match to each other, and they got very fast at the end. So it's a constitution, it's a kind of experiment. And for me, it's always like that I'm not looking whether it's true or not. As an architect, it's like a building. It's impressive, it works, and for that, I'm happy that I'm able to do this. So, read it like that. For me, it's a little experimental. It's the first time I'm talking this. It's in this 30, 40 minutes I have. It's a lot to talk. Therefore, the first time in my career, I'm reading. So it's premiere. So, but still it's rough, but it fits. So be polite with that I'm not taking references as you're used to do it, as I'm not taking it in a light which is proper for a theory, and wait for the last wheel, and then we start the motor and it's running. So this is how it works. So that's the first thing, this machine. The other is that I'm able to scale. So what I'm doing, will do is I have this machine and then I anchor it into numbers of our planet, of our world, and run our world around amazing concepts. So by that, things get surprisingly different in how we can, for example, look for cogito or for artificial intelligence, what architectonics, architecture might be, and so on. And it gives a surprising new perspective. So look at it like with Kepler, a planetary system working about our planet, about what urbanism is, what a city is, and so on. So, therefore, like this, like a building, it's not a solution, there's no truth, and so on. It just works in a surprising way, which gives new facets to concepts we use and which are prominent today in politics, in economy, technology, and so on. So this is what I want to show. This in my introductory talk, day before yesterday. This is in principle the gesture and the vector I want to do. Computers are a threat, so they're not sort of solving anything, they are a threat, because it's so easy, I told you. So the hypothesis here I want to make is that architecture is the answer to this threat. So I like that as an architect. I don't know whether it's a proper answer, and I will show you, you can think about it, at least, yeah? So, Because there's always a lot of misunderstanding. I cannot say that I like computers. I like intellect, and I see all the computers out there, crystalline and most powerful. It's very beautiful how they operate, and it's frightening to see our known world dissolving and see the stoic and autistic reactions of our societies. Computers are a challenge, and our societies are reacting in inadequate ways, risking and even celebrating the idea of a clash. So this is a principle setup. So that said, I am not a technocrat. I know all these things. I know them by heart. I love them. But this is not what I want to talk about. I don't want to sell computers. Yeah? Quite different from the subject of my teaching at ETH. Yeah? So, so this is the line of argumentation you can expect. So, kind of overview. Computers show their power in form of global urbanization. The global dystropic rhetoric says that we cannot afford it, which obviously doesn't matter, and opens door to an overwhelming production of artifacts, eating all cultures in the generic. It is time for architecture to understand the mechanics, to affirm power and give this power a face. It is time to give the forms of power a forum. It's time to rethink the city. It's start navigating our planet with consciousness. So, now these 3 chapters, the title, I got it, I should talk about it, so I make it. And it worked pretty well, so now you see the mechanics. How to think about AI. Forget about AI as a technical development of the last 20 years. It's a mindset which came to birth around 1900, which gets evident today because it found its adequate technical implementation around 2000, with the upcoming of mobile phones, internet, social media, and so on. So in my understanding, AI and computing is a quantum technique, and social media is its implementation, or what we see in social media and the internet. And by that, now we have it. And I think it got mature. If it is like that, I would like to read the 20th century as AI. So that's a trick. Huh? Everything else would be inadequate. So therefore, we experience a digital Copernican turn. All problems are solved by machines on flat land. Yeah, all the Copernican turn, and we are on flat land, and all problems are solved with AI on our flat planet. We took off and navigate a starship. We do not need a solution because all solutions are on board. We need a direction. Listening to the talks about the changing weather we can measure and the climate we can estimate and calculate, reading it as an indicator of our awareness, awakening of the awareness of our planetary body and the demand for a navigation of spaceship Earth. And of course it's frightening to see colors the first time. But it's definitely not a problem. It's a situation, and we need a next step to the yet unknown being made. What did we take with us in our spaceship? Yes, we have to be careful, operate in cycles, do recycling to survive. What is out there? It's anything. It's a big plenty we are threatened by. The question of energy, for example. Energy is not a resource. Energy is just there, in principle abundance. The world is consuming 574 exajoule of primary energy per year. The efficiency of our engines is about 30 to 50%, which makes about 220 exajoule we are using to operate mankind, our spaceship. And you're right. Nature's photosynthesis produces only 400 exajoules of resources, which is neither enough, sustainable, nor good if we consume it. But look out of the window of our starship, and you see that the solar radiation impact to our planet is 3,900,000 exajoule. Energy is not about a resource, nature, or scarcity. It's about intellect, our planet, and the plenty. So it's factor 10,000, at least. And this is an illustration of factor 10,000. These are 10,000 points. Now let's look. You see this red dot? This is us, this is nature. And this is the radiation we are exposed to. So thinking about the resources as a source of our life, and knowing that there is energy of this plenty, it's a kind of crazy. So, or if this is planet Earth, this is the area we need to power our starship with actual ways how we deal with it. So it's nothing. So, just switch your mindset from burning the 400 exajoules of available natural resources in here to the excess of the 3,900,000 exajoules of solar radiation out there. Just switch from consumption, what nature is producing, to artificial photosynthesis, powering artificial intelligence, and go coexistence with nature. Done. Some obvious numbers. So, I thought that we should think the 20th century like that. We are already on our way, and we are doing it like that. So, look at the numbers. This switch is on its way. This is a factuality of numbers. Things are growing beyond natural proportions. And we are afraid of that, of course. In the last 50 years, the global wealth increased by factor 60, at least. Which we see with all the buildings, so 95% of all the buildings are built in the last 50 years of this planet. The kids get 50 times more toys than I got. So it's everywhere. So it's growing like hell. Life expectancy grows in the last 50 years by 20 years per person in average over our planet. So we all get an extra 20 years, and this increase was by the last 50 years. In the last 50 years, an extra 6 billion people got literate. When I was born, 1 billion people had been literate. Now it's 7. It grows like hell. Or the rate of homicides go down by 90%. So, and you can have a lot of these numbers. This is AI. AI is driven by a new mindset. AI accesses energy of the solar stream. AI solves old problems. AI is a new ground. It is nutritious, and things prosper in all aspects. And no culture has experienced this challenge. No culture likes it. All cultures are blind to it and are yet exposed. And because there is no problem, you can't find any existing solution for that. We are alone in outer space. Why does AI work? Let us have a closer look at the nature of this success of AI. It turned out that the principal interests of people on this planet are not so diverse as we might expect. Everybody likes good food. Everybody takes care of its kids. Everybody runs for good medicine or good education, good housing, mobile phones, to be mobile, safe places, decent works, hanging around, and so on. We do it in different ways, but we all like it. The smartness of AI is that it delivers all these services with near to no direct implications in form or structure. This is very important. Yeah? You can play any culture on penicillin. You can run any machine with electricity. You can talk any language with your mobile. You can play any culture on the internet, and so on. There's no restriction, and I can go in detail how this works with the internet. No restriction, neither in form nor in structures. And because of that, it works. It's so convincing. Because you simply can continue what you're doing, but faster. It's so easy. If there is a problem, then it is that everything gets so easy. All structures and all forms of all our cultures are dissolving in the new stream of AI. Therefore, we should be patient. AI is a challenge to all cultures. Nobody knows. We don't know, Chinese people don't know, African people don't know, no culture knows, the Indians don't know, the gurus don't know, nobody knows. But wealth always and only comes with education. Education needs time, people will emancipate, and societies will flourish with these artifacts of AI. Landscapes evolve on this new planet. This is what we call urbanization today. The prosperous industrialized farmland of today, feeding 8 billion people with ease. No cultural setup before has been able to do so. Yeah, of course, there are unbearable problems not solved, but addressing that, at least pretending to take care, is part of the solution AI provides. So I think that, for example, with homicides, with crimes, and so on, talking about this is the success story. By decreasing homicides by 90%. We are just talking in media about this. How did AI evolve? And I want to show you a metaphor, a nice story. It's night. You can look here. You're at home. It's cold outside. You organize your comfy and warm place around the fire. You maintain your life with care. Your life runs in cycles, time is passing by. In this concentration, you develop engines and technical structures. Your life is on reflection, on education, on control and analysis of everything around, including yourself, your psyche, of course. Because you have time. The calculus, the engines, legalite, the profit, the taxes, the beauty and the beast, the logic of thought, studies on hysteria, and so on. This is what you're doing at night at home. This is what we have with Enlightenment, 18th, 19th century. An eternity, but only hours later, the sunrise. Strong and warm. There's a whole world showing up outside in the bright sunlight, quite different from your home you got comfortable with. Everything strange in different colors, talking stories about their dreams of the night. There's a plenty of everything. It's rich, powerful, of all colors, of strange forms, fascinating. You go out, you are confused, because they are not part of your orchestrated home. You join all these aliens as a migrant, and you start to learn to talk to make your way out of the cozy circles at home. And these are the friends you meet: the TV, the automobile, nuclear energy, the airplanes, bubblegum, antibiotics, synthetic fertilizers, laser light, bikini, photovoltaic, electric computers, xerox windows, mobile phones, and so on. These are the 20 most important inventions of the 20th century. You can look it up at Wikipedia. Very strange. So I like it. And these are your friends, your alienated friends, and they have other dreams. They got it overnight. So when you meet them, and you're puzzled. And things are growing like crazy on this new industrialized farmland, which just needs the sun to grow. 100 times more of everything compared just 100 years before. Not only this, it is most irritating that things of value at home get inflationary by these numbers. And not only the things, but your social status. You get worried about it, and it's complicated to keep your stance in style. So, question so far. Why are we not aware of these numbers? And talking about saving our planet, claiming we are poor. The answer so far? If urbanization is industrialized farmland, and it is growing like crazy, then the persons in charge, whoever they are the landlords. And the others, not knowing these numbers, are farmers. And as farmhands, as good farmhands, they are doing right to act sustainable. And it's right to believe that this is good to save the planet. The next question is, what is the source of power and who is in charge? Okay, chapter 2, Cogito. Now we go with mathematics. So these stories we always tell, I feel comfortable with, and with that I get stable arguments, because this is a royal path to knowledge, because it's uncorrupted by any pragmatism, and it's working in all cultures. Cross cultures, because not corrupted by any culture. That's very, very beautiful, so I like it. It's a little complicated to do something with it, because it's explicitly not for that, to do something, but it's good for thinking. First lesson, and I won't just make this story because we always get afraid of exponential growth. My hypothesis is exponential growth is a fake story. So I will show you why. It takes a little long, but we'll go there. It's nice. Space and time. There's a primary distinction in mathematics between geometry and the harmonics, between I would suggest for architects, space and time, even if they are showing up, for example, as time and frequency domain, where time domain represents space and frequency domain represents time. So now, this is the principal mechanics. Circles exploring space, they are passing by. Do we have? Yeah, here. They are passing by, like waves of a drop dipped in the water. We have it here. So, waves exploring space. They are simultaneously at different places. Lines do not meet waves, as time do not meet space. You can hear the waves and with it, the space at a point in time. And you can see the time along a line cutting space. So what I can hear is a simultaneous appearance of the room, of the space. But if I'm looking, I'm cutting this space. I only can see lines. This is omnidirectional. This is unidirectional. So we had it several times. Yeah. But you cannot see what you hear, and you cannot hear what you see. Because one is on geometry, and the other is on topology or harmonics. There's always intelligence involved. To hear the time creates meaning, and to see space making sense. This is just the opposite way around, yeah? You see that. So I would say, if you hear time, which you only can see, but if you want to hear that, this is creating meaning, and you need intelligence for that. And the other way around is making sense, if you want to see space. And you need intelligence for that. So, and this is what I think we have out there. That things make sense and create meaning. And like Michel Serres says, it thinks. So by that, things get stable in space and time and get these precious bodies. At night, at home, you are circled in space, seeing time in repetitions to analyze the origin of space. At day out there, you are lined up in time, hearing the spatial synchronicity of the elements to explore the right way in time. These are the settlers, these are the nomads. Now go to our mathematical instrument. This is a whole, a unity, your home at night, a circle. And this is a part of it. The unity is space of our home. The partition shows time passing by. And this shows how we measure it with a number, 1 to 6. And it's very important, and I didn't realize it, and nobody pays attention to it. If you have these fractions, they are of two different natures. So both numbers are not of the same kind. The numerator is counting parts in time. And the denominator represents the fiction of a unity of a space in a pragmatic refinement. So this is time, this is space. This is what you see, this is what you hear. It's not just two numbers. And this is a kind of intelligence. And the numerator plays at night, the denominator is a memory of the day. And all numbers are like that. With the Egyptian and with the Greek numbers, it had been the even and the odd numbers, day and night. Or with the real and the imaginary part of a complex numbers today, the real part and the complex one, circular, linear. Okay, too much. So now go to 1750. This was the last sunset we had. So what I would like to read is that the Euler number, it's a special number, which is done by that. It's an infinite self-reflection of whatever it is. You see that here. You can interpret that again, but it's too much. So I would say The Euler number brings home the idea of the space of the past day, which in case of 715 is Renaissance. So this number is infinite, of infinite length. You can have it 10,000 times. So then you see it doesn't end. There's no repetition in it. So to make it good for architects, the Euler number is the engine to run your home. It rotates time overnight. The Euler number makes the chronological partition in time real. With the Euler number, the calculus gets productive and real. The Euler number creates meaning. This is what we call education, refinement, optimization, the quest for beauty, enlightenment. And this is the axis or the engine for that is the Euler number. Because it encapsulates all kind of self-reflections of space you can imagine. And this is how this engine works at night, over time, at home. We call that qualitative, or I would call that qualitative growth. You see, this is a formula. You have the Euler number with an exponential, some parameters to adjust it, to make it proper in slope and so on, beginning and end. These are certain parameters, and this makes a picture of it. And you see this typical S-curve. This is the learning curve. So you need the exponential number. This is how you learn at home. And you never stop learning. This is what we see with creativity. We want to be artists. So we want to understand things better. We know this never ends. Lifelong learning, whatever, all these kind of. So that's good. Learning is good. I like it. So all classifications, Darwin, get contrast to that. All constructions in architecture, all productions in the industry, all infrastructures of our cities are working like that. You can define that precisely. They're educated and real. They never find an end in time. They run towards infinity. They operate within the eternal infinity of a circle. So this is the last night at home, cozy home. Around 1900, we had a sunrise. So as I showed you, 100 times more, bright sun, shadows, and so on. A sunrise, on the other side, is not about new numbers. At a new day, outside under the sun, out there, you have to affirm that reality of your chronological calculus at home is not of primary importance. If you step out into the sunlight of a new day, and you see the strong shadows, and you see especially that the ratio of the things and their shadows under the sun are beyond calculability. They are irrational, not a number, and yet obviously there. You mark it with a symbol. This is what we do with our square root. This is from home, this is from home, you know, this is outside. And these are the aliens. And they are beyond calculability because it's not a number. And because of that, you need the symbol. In that case, with a triangle, we had it at different times, this conference, just with a square root. With this rucksack, you can leave eternal time of calculability at home and navigate freely in space out there. Because you trust your cogito. Cogito, the difference between things you know, which you know are fake. You navigate between real things of numbers. This is what we call cogito ergo sum, directly with Descartes. So, I think we experience that in our written chronology of our cultures. We experience this phase 3 times, and we can learn from that, from the symmetries. If everything rotates in a machine, we can learn by certain constellations. If we have experienced similar directions, we can kind of copy paste. So therefore, I think it's important that we can find 3 geometries. We did this with a line of drawings, of writings in around 500 BC to face objective things as subjects in space. We write these kind of things, different the sentences, you can look it up, but we definitely didn't bring importance to drawings, but we are educated like that. So, next day, after night, learning things, next day, Renaissance, with the horizon of the drawing around 1400 AC, we face objective things in space to move subjects in time. This is how we do it, and this is how we operate things in time. So they get real in time. Or with the digital access of the Google metrics today, we face objective things in time as vivid subjects, and I would call it life. So what we have here with the horizon, with this kind of construction, we have with AI, we have this axis of probability metrics, and this is corresponding to rotating the world. Whatever you ask to get this new perspective to the thing, to the world, we have it here with our social medias in the actual implementation. You turn the world corresponding to your questions and get certain reflections with this kind of geometry, of probabilities. So my hypothesis is this, as a mathematical model, was developed around 1900, and it took 120 years to perform like that. And this happened in 3 levels. So let's give the geometry of life was developed in 1880 to 1920. The schemes of computing have been developed around 1930. There is the athletics of computing called von Neumann machines, 1934, and there's the intellect of computing I am in favor of. It's called the lambda calculus from Alonzo Church, 1963. This is the way how we articulate and write computing. We write geometry. And now your ears, I think so because I'm missing this concept, I don't know how to name it. Maybe this works. So you have these 3 phases, this matches. So in technology, mainframe 1960, first stage of development. The body of thinking is structuralism. Language is ergo, Fortran, Pascal. Form is to design. Structure is given. The principal problem is combinatoric explosion. Therefore, these machines didn't work out properly. These are the artifacts and their users. These are the interfaces. These are the other migrants out there, and these are their houses. Yeah? Next phase, 1980, personal computers. The second stage of development. The body of thinking is post-structuralism. Languages, Smalltalk, C++, Java. The form is free. The structure to design. Remember, form was to design, structure was fixed. The principal problem is the framing problem. You can look it up. It's too much to explain. There's a principal problem why that doesn't work to explain. It's to run our world. The artifacts and their users. This is Microsoft Edge. The interfaces. The other migrants out there. And the other houses out there. 2000, the internet. You would say speculative. The third stage of development. Body of thinking, I don't know. Language, I would say it's XML. Form is free and structure is free. And I can show it how it works with XML. I'm super fascinated with that. The principal problem, we don't know what to do. Because there's no reason for anything anymore. Yeah, that's the problem. This is because it's so easy. This is what we are challenged with. So these are the artifacts and their users. These are the interfaces. These are programming interfaces like comics. These are driving the comic. These are the migrants. And these are the other houses out there. So now look at this categorical mistake. With the internet, we do not have the principal we do now have the principal instrument to navigate without any assumptions in form or structure. Now it's time to learn how to play it. This is in fact challenging. Remember the learning curve? E is a motor to qualify space over time at night. If you now put E from the denominator to the numerator, from space to time, you instantly get a feedback. Spatiality over space. So like if you put a microphone in front of a speaker. It doesn't have anything to do with anything anymore. It's just self-reflected feedback loop. And it always ends up in a catastrophe. This is what we call exponential growth. And this feedback is an inconvenient truth. So if you look up how this works, you simply put the E at the nominator from time to space, otherwise, I think from space to time. So you put a chronological element to time, and you get this feedback. So it's categorically nonsense, and it always makes catastrophes. This feedback instantly happens if you shortcut space and time, if you take out intelligence out of equation. You remember these thinking drops and plants and so on. They can be stable subjects, subtle, stable subjects in space and time because they are smart, they are of intelligence. And if you take it out, everything collapses and crashes. Yeah? And the same is if you think you can directly see what you can hear. Or hear what you see, which is nonsense. So, but it's everywhere. Whatever you look, how people talk, how they discuss, 90% of the scientists simply makes a shortcut and then they think it's of education and so on. So the question so far, what is the source of power and who is in charge? We still don't know. But we can say that the landlords, whoever they are, obviously learned to use their cogito to navigate in space under the sun and contracting nature, exploring the factor 10,000. Whereas the settlers stay at their cozy homes in time at night, in balance with their sources of nature. And we see fake stories of exponential growth to keep the settlers stupid, keep them staying at home, and of wealth. So I don't know whether it's, but if these mechanics work, it's like that. So we still have the question, who is in source? What is the source of power and who is in charge? And what can we do? Third chapter. It's surprisingly simple to identify. Piketty, the spelling checker made a lot of mistakes. I'm following Piketty, Capital of the 21st Century. You can look it up, and summarizing in a drastic way. So, the wealth of the world is about 300. It's always in a billion. They call it a trillion in US. It's trillion, and in UK it's billion. So I make the US, it's trillion. So it's 300,000 billion a year. That's a wealth. So US calls it trillion. So that's the wealth of our planet. So we have two different ways to run our planet. This is a BIP. production and consumption is around 60 trillion per year. I call it bound money. Free money from interests of the $300 trillion wealth is about $20 trillion a year. So this is money which is not in production and consumption. It's from capital. And these $20 trillion are the source of power. They navigate our planet. And there's a remarkable invariance to all societies and economies. 3/4 of the turnover of a society is used for production and consumption. 1/4 is political money to invest. 3/4 in all societies is bound, and 1/4 is free. And in contrast to what you might expect, this money is not foreign money in no society. More than 90% of the wealth is always owned by the societies themselves. Also, which is striking, and I didn't know this, politics of today do not have access to the political money. Politics of today manage the consumptive money, and they try to distribute it in an as fair as possible way, which essentially is an economic and not a political task. They have no money. That's the problem of politics, nothing else. No free money. Nothing to complain in principle, because it had been the case all over our history, with very few exceptions, especially the 20, 30 years after the Second World War. So our democracies are a mechanism to calibrate the economical power in a right way, but it has no access to at least 1/4 of the free money and the actual political power. So to give you numbers and calibrate that, Switzerland, there's 800 billion, so it's 0.6 trillion we had here. 600 billion for production and consumption. This is to run Switzerland. And there's $200 billion political money to invest. For Europe, these numbers are 13,500 and 4,500, which is enormous. For example, the investment of China in this new Silk Road is about estimated $1,300 billion in 10 years, which is 2.9% of the political money of Europe. So this is the money for 3 days of a year. Or the investment of Alphabet, Google's Alphabet, in research and development is 14 billion a year, which is 7% of the political money of Switzerland. And 0.3% of the political money for Europe, which is breakfast. Yeah? So, therefore, nobody can complain. Even small Switzerland could change the world with ease if there would be the political will. The money would be there. Answer so far. Hypothesis is political money is source of power. And the situation is nobody knows who is in charge. So we are unconscious. With the discussion of climate change, we do get an understanding now of how our planet feels, but we do not know how our planet thinks. We simply don't know it. Today, our planet is unconscious. This is the it of the it. This is what we see today. Urbanized farmlands wherever you go. Most of the people in calm comfort, lots of settlers running sustainable like crazy, running around mimicking the lifestyle of the landlords 200 years ago, not educated and shouting inadequate and completely unimportant things to save the planet, which means to conserve the status of their privileged ancestors. We see it everywhere, over-designed, endless copies of old cliches, junk space with Rampulas. Now we can summarize. You cannot improve by doing better. You have to step out. This is the metaphor of the starship. A few already stepped out, obviously. The landlords are navigating their money, making de facto politics. But it looks like that they do not know how to show what they are doing. They are hiding their intentions, their projects. They stay invisible. There is no forum, there is no challenge. They cannot be the good ones with their money and their power. It's getting risky for them because they cannot get stabilized in their hosting societies. So what to do? Settlers have to step out. The landlords need a place to show up. And if we take our democracy serious, we have to claim political power. The only way to do so is by demanding a share of the unbound free money. Let's say 20%. And like in the old times, this cannot be done by taxes. Taxes are in the game with workers and production. Political money plays with taxes. It plays not with taxes, but with rents to the properties of the landlords. One has to demand rents on the new prosperous industrial ground we call urbanization. This rent is to install a government to increase the common wealth, however this might work in detail today. And these are the steps. Get educated with these numbers, not bottom up, which is for farmers, but top down, which is for landlords. And get people aware that the societies are rich because of AI. Claim a part of the political money as rents to finance a political court of the day, establish a virtual king, develop the cogito of our planet. Affirm power. All architectural treaties of the past are not for the people, but for the princes, to advise them in good governance. They give power a face, claim responsibility, and build cities around the facets of power, to head the urbanized farmland, to navigate our planet in an adequate way, architectonics. So now, reading Vitruvius, this is the introduction. You see, it's to Imperator Caesar, distinguish authority in its public buildings, military, and take care that our public and private buildings shall be worthy to go down to prosperity by the side of your other splendid achievements. I have drawn up definite rules to enable you. End of introduction of Vitruvius. Roman Empire. All reference to all architecture today. So that's my talk. Thank you.
Is it working? Yeah. Thank you so much. We open up for, I'm sure there's a lot of questions and comments.
It's wonderful. Again, where to begin? I suppose the need is for such a body is plain. But perhaps also we might add to it that it would be a body that could intervene and prevent or decide between cyberwars. It seems, again, we know that the democracies are at stake, in fact, and it seems to me that we can't leave it to individual nations to resist the kind of attack on the democracy that happens within the state from other states. So an arbiter and a policeman even of cyber war would be part and parcel, perhaps, of what you're saying.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, anyone else?
you very much. I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit more on this notion of virtual king.
Of?
Virtual king.
Which
the
one?
virtual king you mentioned?
Ah, the virtual king. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know enough. So there are these political theories with the Greeks, with the Roman Empire, Cicero, and so on. So we have similar things in Renaissance and Baroque, how these set up, how the political theories are, and I think we have to follow this stuff. Therefore, I thought, virtual king. I am not much more educated in these things than I am today. So, but this would be I have ideas, but this would be the proper next question. So I simply make it a symbol, virtual king. How to do that, how to get it working, I don't know. But I think we have to, we have to challenge the landlords. We have to orchestrate that, and they have to be forced to show up. So, for we as a society, we simply have to say we want to get in charge. So we have to establish an instant the landlords have to refer to. And we have to get money for it. Like the kings got money from their landlords, from their knights and so on, to run their court. So, and then there have to be established certain rituals how to do that. Not to get the money. It's not a revolution or something. It's just to get transparency and get an awareness what is going on. So get consciousness of our planet. So, but how to do that? I'm architect and computer science. This is we have this machine to be fast in getting references, but to understand and these principles takes time. So this is for me, it's surprisingly good how these pieces fall to each other. So, and this is worth to go further and say, okay, now what is with how to organize politics? Again, which I think current politics is simply no politics. Very simple.
So following up on that, I had a question. I really enjoyed the talk. And so my question is basically this: is the virtual king a being of artificial intelligence himself?
No. The virtual is urbanization. Right. It's the farmland.
Okay.
And we need the cities. Because the farmers are with the farmland, they are with the intelligence, they care it and so on. These are the settlers. And the cities have to start governing this. So this is human intellect. It has to be human intellect. So on the ground, we had it very often. It's the water, so it's flowing, it's streaming, it's super fertile. It's the ground. It's stupid. So, and if we are landlords, we go upright and we talk about it. So we are not influenced by the stream of things and by this fertility. So this has to be. This is what I think humanism is about. And we always had phases of humanism in these kind of challenges. And we have to develop it. We have to be aware that this is like that. New politics, new architecture, and so on. Yes?
There is this, I mean, that's maybe what you were hinting at, Bill, with the Cyberwar. What is nested, or what was an early phase of this kind of thinking, is the digital citizenship, no? Which basically works like a bank, but a bank that is to preserve all the traces of all the data that we produce, no? And to guarantee that no other government can fake your traces. So it's like, so it's a deal. It's a kind of a contract where you agree that all your data is put to that bank. So you have biofeedback, all the movements, everything, but such that every moment can be restored what actually happened. It's kind of a bank. And this is stateless, yeah? So it's deterritorial. But it's a citizenship. So you pay taxes, and in return you get that kind of protection of your data. Oh, and that would be a kind of citizenship that is in addition to whatever other forms of citizenships we have.
Yeah, this is the digital police, for example.
That's
Take care
exactly,
that
yeah.
your digital integrity is there. So this is kind of police. This is a governmental task, and we developed it as a digital citizenship. Yes.
And the way can you say some things of the gnomon, the kind of crystal? So how you, because the question is why should somebody be capable of keeping it safe when nobody else can? How this works? That's important to give credit to the thinking, so that it's actually plausible that it might work.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yes.
Oh. So I don't. Yeah, okay, maybe.
It's the blockchain structure.
Yeah, of course. So the key challenge today is that, and we see it everywhere. No? So if you are in charge somewhere in companies or as a politician, and you get attacked in your position, they simply fake your data. So, and the key problem is that. Your friend with all these social media to any Chinese or African people, so only to Stephen Hawkins and over 3 steps and whatever. So you're connected. So that's nice in principle. The problem is you're connected to any attack of terror in 3 steps. So then, and that's the problem. First problem. The second is, if everything gets connected, nobody stay safe. The integrity of who you are, your traces and so on, they are super fragile. Because change one thing, one link, and then you're there with 2 steps. So tomorrow I'm pedophile, if you like. Very simple, and I have no chance. So therefore, what you can do is you can record, encrypt what we are about to do. So it's not a technical problem. What you are doing, where you are, or your pulses, your temperature, or the frequencies of voice and movements and so on, record it, encrypt it, put it in a Swiss mount. So, and then put like blockchain, put it that you have digital witnesses, for example, 100 witnesses. Put this encrypted protocol of what you did, and encrypt it and share it with 100 others, random others. So with the effect that if something happened or you get exposed somewhere, you have witnesses that it can't be. So these are mechanisms you can stabilize. So, but this is, it's a technical detail. This is not, I don't believe that this is a principal problem. This can be done, everything can be done. The key problem is that we start thinking top-down. If we want to be conscious with our planet, we have to know what we need as a planet. We will have to look outside. We have to know what is our capability, what we need to operate, what is the free money, what can we invest, and so on. So we don't know it, which is interesting. So somehow our societies manage that nobody is aware what's going on. Very simple. So in these numbers, for example, Switzerland or Austria would not be much different. Yeah? Switzerland, $200 billion a year, free political money. So which means we can cope with China in political actions as 8 million Swiss people. Google is not a problem. We can't complain. So this is settlers or farmers complaining that the landlord is an asshole. So you say, that's not fair that you're controlling our data and blah, 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 and so on. It's not a problem. You can do it. Simply do it better. So, and I think as a civilian, as a civilized person, you simply should. So, if you're doing your years and your life, you simply have to ask yourself: if I'm this rich, what did I do to improve planet Earth? You can't simply say, yeah, the big boys and the big companies and what can we do? We small. It's not true. Simply do it. It's a political will. That's, I think, it's important. And then all the technology is very generic and it's always there and super simple. It's not only that the applications are simple, the technology gets simple. It's very complex because it's very abstract how it works, but it's always the same. So if I can drive a car, I can translate languages, I can play chess, and so on. We experience it. It's the same machine, exactly the same machine. You just have to train it differently.
Any other question or comment? No? Okay. Well, then I think we can close the Q&A. And thank you, Ludger.
Thank you.
Perhaps Vera wants to